If you are one of the over 30 million small business owners out there, then you don't need me to tell you how the world has changed due to the coronavirus. Hi, I'm Mike Lockey, and I'm the Director of Management Services for American Management Services. And we want to bring to you our over 34 years of working with small businesses just like you to survive and thrive during what we're calling the 3 months of hell. In this first introductory course, we discuss the foundations we've used with our consulting clients to help develop, design, and implement an overall coronavirus business survival plan to help navigate through this time of uncertainty. And we want to share that with you. So sit down, grab a pencil and paper, and let's get to work.
Welcome to 3 Months of Hell. This is American Management Services webinar series in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Lou Mosca, Chief Operating Officer of American Management Services.
And I'm Mike Lockey. I'm the Director of Management Services for American Management Services. Building and running a business is kind of like a jigsaw puzzle.
I sort of like the jigsaw puzzles I play with my grandchildren that have about 12 pieces, and I'm stuck after the first two, right? Versus my older ones who do these 500-piece things that I don't know how they do. But the real thing is that when you have this jigsaw puzzle, right, you have this picture, you have this vision, you have this guiding light of what the end product is supposed to look like, right?
That's right.
Where your centerpiece has to be maybe all about leadership, and your four corners have to be, the bedrocks of what you do and how you do it. Well, now if you think about a jigsaw puzzle, all right, sort of during COVID-19, or what we call 3 months of hell,
Right.
All right. So now you think about this jigsaw puzzle during COVID-19 and coming out of COVID-19. So you got this canvas, it's got all these pieces on it, and none of them are colored in.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
There's no directions. Nothing's colored in.
Yeah. With so much uncertainty, maybe you're missing pieces. Maybe you don't even have every piece in there to fit in there. And the pieces that you do have are just that much harder to fit in because it's harder because you don't know what the end product looks like.
And I actually think it's not only do you have the right pieces, do you know what the pieces are?
Right.
Right? Do you know what the pieces are? Do you know what your resources are to make that puzzle a functional tool for yourself? And before we go forward, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is this the first time we've been in the office in
It's a couple weeks.
several weeks now, right?
Yeah.
And how far apart are we?
We're at least 6 foot.
At least 6 feet apart, right? So there's ways to be productive and still be safe, right? So I just took my mask off a little while ago because Kevin, our producer over here, says take the damn mask off, right? But mask might be part of your puzzle right now.
Yeah.
Might be part of your puzzle on you go forward.
Certainly.
Okay, go ahead.
And I think what we're hoping to do with this webinar and future webinars is to lay out those foundational things of how you can survive and thrive through this period of time, because there's a lot of small businesses suffering. Some had to shutter their doors, just like we did for a period of time. But there's ways to stay productive. There's ways to, I don't want to say beat this, but there's ways to make sure that your business can come out on the far end of this in as good a shape as you.
So since I'm such a technology expert and my slide presentation just shit the bed, I'm going to have to play off you. So go right ahead.
Well, why don't you start by introducing yourself?
So, hey, I'm Lou Mosca. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of American Management Services. And I will tell you that after 34 years, I don't think there's anybody on this planet that does better for small business, independent business owners than we do. In fact, I know for a fact that when we were asked to partner with the United States Conference of Mayors, we were one of many, 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 many thousands of consulting firms that were considered, and we were the only one that was chosen to partner with the Conference of Mayors for a couple of reasons. Number one, we are tenacious. Number two, we are relentless. And number three, we get it. We understand what owners go through. So American Management Services, 34 plus years. I've been doing this for 21 plus years at this point. We actually give a damn, and we will get you over that hurdle. That's who we are. Michael?
And as I mentioned before, my name is Mike Lockey. I'm the Director of Management Services, so I deal directly with our consulting clients. And we've had a lot of talks and a lot of discussions, and we've done a lot of various media, email blast, podcasts, white papers,
Google advertising, LinkedIn,
a lot of different things.
Mayor sites.
because we're just very concerned. We deal with small business clients every day. I think we've done a fairly decent job trying to get ahead of this with all of our consulting clients. I think our consulting clients are better off today than what they would have been had we not been there helping. And I think we want to take what we've learned and what we've garnered and just our normal day-to-day experience and apply it to anybody that's out there. We just didn't want to limit it to our clients.
So what are we charging for today's webinar?
Today is absolutely free.
Cool. Go ahead.
So that leads me into why are we doing this? So again, we've been working with all of our consulting clients very early on COVID, before any state-ordered shutdowns, and we've had great success with those strategies laid out. And what we wanted to do was discuss the things that we did early on that gave our clients a fighting chance at surviving this unique time. We've handled hundreds of calls from small businesses utilizing a toll-free hotline number that we set up. Again, we've done numerous podcasts in our series, The Hardball Profit Way, and a series of other numerous videos and written articles to openly discuss the strategies to anybody that needs help. But the reality that we've kind of come to is that it's clear that we needed a bigger platform to do this. That we can only service so many people on a call. We can only spend so much time with them.
Can only touch so many.
Right, exactly. And with the hundreds of people that's calling, it's very difficult to service them all. So that's why we wanted to do this. We wanted to have a bigger platform, be able to dive deeper into the issues than what we could do spending 10, 15, 20 minutes on a call with people. So that's why we're here. And we wanted to put our years of experience to work for everybody that's out there.
Yesterday I spent about 45 minutes on the phone with a mayor who was actually a business owner. And she was pretty cool, but taking off her mayor's hat to wear only her business owner hat was truly a challenge for her. And trying to be responsive to her employees and or versus her role as a mayor really wreaked havoc with her, really. So I can't imagine what most business owners are going through today. Yeah. And you and I both know how many folks we've tried to help that just did not make the cutoff first round on a CARES program.
Right.
And they're traumatic. They're just totally traumatized over this, right? So where are we going now, Mike?
So before we kind of dive into today's subject matter, one more thing, and we mentioned this before. This initial webinar, we're gladly offering free of charge. And again, what we want to do today is introduce the key topics that's going to drive the entire series. We're going to do a series of these, and again, we want to deep dive into various subjects. And the mindset here is, again, how do we thrive and survive through this COVID-19 thing as best as we can? So today we're going to give you some practical recommendations, a few nuggets here and there from each of the categories.
Some meat on the bone.
Some meat on the bone, so to
go.
speak. That's
You're a Kansas City guy, right? You're a meat on the bone
That's
guy.
right. I'm a barbecue guy. So, but this initial offering should provide some valuable information to help anybody in their COVID planning. Now, further installments of our webinar will go into that detail that we're talking about. Today's all about getting some meat on the bone, but we want to go even deeper with that. So as we develop this series more and more, we'll go deeper and deeper into specific things. Okay. If you find value at this webinar, we would ask that you please purchase some additional webinars. We're offering them at a very low cost, $19.95.
How much?
$19.95.
Who approved
per
that?
webinar.
Who approved that?
I don't know. I didn't do that. I just read the notes.
Fool play.
But we believe that the value that you'll get will be far greater than the $20 that you're going to spend for the webinar. And again, our aim is to continue to give our knowledge and expertise to anybody that's out there. But if you decide to stop after this webinar, we appreciate your time. Hope you get some nuggets out of this and you implement it into whatever plan that you want to develop and equips you to weather the storm. So let's go back to our puzzle example. So again,
you're going to keep confusing me.
We have a blank box, nothing but white. We dump pieces out. We got nothing but white pieces. So what we want to try to do today, if we think of it like that puzzle, is we want to help you paint the picture. So you take this blank canvas, now put your own picture into place. We're going to give you some things to do that with. Then we want you to identify the corner and edge pieces, the foundations of what we're doing. And then we want to help you fill in the gaps with those specific details. Okay? So let's start with the plan, which would represent the picture on the puzzle box. So we've said in all of these platforms that we've been communicating with our clients, with people that call us, we said that we have to do three things to paint your picture on
Let me
your
guess.
box. Go ahead.
People.
People,
Son
number
of a
one.
gun. The integrity of your business.
Number two.
Damn, what would be that third one? Let me guess. Cashamundo. Liquidity.
Liquidity.
Very
That's right.
good.
That's right. So
See, I'm a student. I listen.
So we say three things that you got to do, and this is what's going to put the picture on your box. Protect your people, because they're your greatest asset. Protect the integrity of your business, because that's your lifeblood and your legacy. And ultimately, protect your liquidity. Why? Because cash is king. You can't do anything if you don't have the cash to be able to execute. So now, while we might say cash is probably the most important out of all those, as a matter of fact, we've said that, you can't.
They can't fly solo.
Yeah, right. You can't do, just focus solely on that piece of it. And actually, kind of what we're hearing from a lot of our clients and business owners is they're actually erring on the side of their people a little bit more. So they'll do that at the expense of spending more cash right now,
Which is going to kill them eventually, potentially.
Exactly. So so I put a couple examples in for today. Your liquidity suffers if you don't have a good plan for your people and operational plans. So, for instance, if you overstaff, meaning you're not getting productivity for the people and you're continuing to pay them, obviously that's going to eat into your cash and you're not going to be able to sustain. If you're spending too much on operational expenses, you're paying your rent, you're paying your lights, you're doing this, and nothing's coming out in return for that, again, that'll put a strain on your liquidity.
Well, again, this mayor I spoke to yesterday, she told me what her rent was, and it's a significant number.
Yeah.
It's more than we pay. It's a significant number. And I said, in your conversation with your landlord, went how? I'm afraid to talk to him.
Yeah.
Send them a registered letter. This is what it's going to be for the next 90 days.
Right.
You can't back away from the problem,
Yeah.
right? But liquidity is mission critical.
So let's flip that around a little bit, and let's say if you don't have a good plan for liquidity and operational plans, how do your people suffer? Well, they suffer a couple different ways. Obviously, if you run out of cash, you're not paying anybody anything. That's certainly not going to be good for your people, and you risk everybody in the business, not just a handful of people. You risk everybody, including yourself. So you have to have that good plan for liquidity. And if you don't have a good plan for operations, if you're not aggressively pursuing sales, if you're not filling orders or otherwise planning in some fashion of how you're going to operate, then you have people that are just kind of left without jobs, and you might end up without a business. So again, you can't just focus on liquidity. You have to wrap your people in there. And then obviously your operations ties into that as well, because if you can't resupply your inventory or you can't keep your lights on, then you don't have a business. And if you don't have enough of the right people in place, then you're not going to be able to service orders and do things like that. So all three of these things tie into each other. So to paint your picture on your box, you got to have a plan for all three of those things.
So, the way I always looked at it is that profitability and liquidity were the end result of maximizing a plan. Mm-hmm. And the plan always included the pieces of the puzzle were people, accountability, operations, how we purchase, how we control inventory,
That's right.
how we manage our receivables, how we handle our debt, our people on pay for performance, etc. When I look at the pieces of the puzzle now, if I were to make my own puzzle right now, I would put the leadership piece of the puzzle, which there might not have even been before, right in the center of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. On the top left of the puzzle, I would put my people. On the top right of the puzzle, I would put my liquidity. On the bottom left of the puzzle, I would put my operations, and the bottom right of the puzzle, I would put my sales process, right? Because all these departments need to work in concert. But all the things you need to do to protect your people now and your liquidity now are significantly different than where you were when building those blocks 4, 5, 6 months ago. It's different today.
Absolutely.
And your level of leadership needs to be expanded upon, which I believe is why you chose leadership to be our first real webinar.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's
okay, good. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. And you're absolutely right. Since your plans center around those things, everything's kind of got to be built around that. So, again, if you go back to the puzzle concept, now we've kind of painted a picture, with your people, your liquidity, and the integrity of your operations. So those will serve as the foundational border pieces. We're gonna give you a handful, 10 or so foundational pieces that will make up that piece, and then we'll give you some nuggets that will serve as kind of the inner pieces to do that. So people. again, one of the components of building your puzzle piece. So we listed out 5 things that we thought were very important, and you mentioned some of these already. The first one is the leadership regimen. That will be the subject of our next webinar, because it's important. If you don't have the foundational leadership, then everything else really kind of falls apart, doesn't it?
But leadership is not just the owner.
Right.
Leadership has to permeate throughout the organization.
It does. It does.
And whether you're a 4-man shop or a 40-man shop.
Right. But what we're going to talk about in that webinar is the leader, the owner has to set the tone. The owner has to make the conscious decision to be the fighter. And because if that owner doesn't do that, then nobody else is going to follow suit. So a little bit of lead by example, but a little bit ensuring that somebody's on top of things and making sure that everybody's doing their part to contribute to the overall success or to get people through this time. So some other things that we put in there was manpower planning through all the stay-in-place orders, working from home, recruitment, training, and retention. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people out there looking for work. You might be able to capitalize on some of these things. And then we never want to lose sight on incentive-based compensation. And some of those things in there, people might look at those and think, why are we talking about those things through COVID-19? One of my fundamental beliefs has always been, this is a great time to reset. This is a great time to wash out all the past sins that you had, because you're not under a requirement to do anything by the book anymore.
So if people is your top left corner block on your puzzle, leadership regimen, manpower planning, working from home, all these topics you talk about, recruiting, pay for performance, they'd be the puzzle pieces around it, directly linked to leadership in the middle and to liquidity over on the top.
That's correct. That's correct.
And we're going to, in further episodes, we're going to actually walk them through the steps on how to take advantage of this.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right. So let's talk about our one of our other corners, the integrity of the operations, that foundational thing. What we've earmarked for that was, you got to have a sales and marketing strategy through this. You're probably impaired in some fashion.
Like everyone.
Everybody is. So, and even we've had clients that said, we've been busier than ever.
Yeah, but that stopped pretty quick.
And right, exactly. About 2 weeks later, now it's
that cliff showed up.
Well, and the reality is that from the start to the end of the supply chain, if any one business shuts down or there's a hiccup anywhere along the line, it's going to impact you. And there's been 0 impacted businesses at this point. So you got to have a sales.
Mutual friend of ours was running at a rate doing between 9 and 10 million a month, and I spoke to him yesterday morning, and he was doing great, happy as a clam, and now he's projecting 6.5 million. All right, now no one's going to feel bad for a guy doing 6.5 million a month, except for the guy that just went from 9 to 10 million to 6.5 million.
That's right.
And didn't think it was going to happen. Which I said to him, "You're out of your mind."
Right. But this is why we're doing this, is because a lot of people, even the essential businesses that are still open, said, hey, I'm in X industry. That's essential. We're just going to be, it's going to be business. Nope.
No way.
We've had, several people we've talked to that things were running well until what happened. Some of their people were ill and couldn't come in, or they had to turn over some of that, or
they just got frightened and didn't get ill.
Absolutely.
Just got frightened.
Absolutely. So it's very important that you follow our lead here. Another area, and again, some of these might seem odd to talk about, but I think it's very important to do that. Pricing and costing, and looking at how you accurately allocate your overhead to that, to make sure that you're pricing. So when things kind of resume to normal, you're set with pricing. You got a great opportunity to reset what you do and how
most owners don't get that. They never do. How many owners have you met with the last time they've raised the price was 4 years ago? All right, and they've just been absorbing because they don't have a true fully burdened calculation. They don't have a true grip on what it costs them to generate or create $1 of revenue. And quite frankly, that's the kind of thing people should scream for help for.
Right. In normal times, it's a challenge for business owners, let alone the times that we're in today. We want to make sure that, continuing on with the operational piece, that you set some level of productivity reporting and metrics, that you have some idea of how your people are performing, especially if they're working from home. You got to be able to measure them in some meaningful fashion, have work for them, and then follow up with those things. We want to talk about the supply chain management. How are you dealing with your vendors, and how are you dealing with the movement of product in and through and out your doors.
I'm always astounded how many business owners fail to see that their vendors can be their bank.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take much to pick up an extra 5, 10, 15 days of liquidity by pushing your supplier, your vendor, your manufacturer. Push them, because they want the business too.
Yeah. One of the things, and you've probably heard, you're probably sick of me saying this, but if you don't ask, the answer is always no. It's up to you as the owner to drive that. Your vendors aren't going to come to you and say, hey, do you want an extra 10 days, extra 15 days?
Yeah, can I give you a discount?
Right, exactly. You got to go to them and you got to ask that. But you can't just go and say, give me something for nothing. It's going to be a little bit of a barter, but you have to bring it up. You have to be the aggressor. You have to be the initiator, and you have to have a good plan for how is this going to work for them, because I never really want anything to be a zero-sum game. I get all the benefit, they don't get any of it. But at some degree, in this day and age, you've got to fight for what you need to make sure that you can continue your business. Another topic of operations that we'll get through later on in our webinars, getting back to normal. And what's your ramp-up plan to do that? I think most people are thinking, wow, it'd be great if everything just ended today and tomorrow my doors open up and we're right back to normal.
Well, you know what we've been telling everybody, at least when we talk internally. So, folks, we're pretty anal about how we do things. We have a cash call every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, since we're all working remotely now. We have a management group call every Monday and Wednesday at 12 o'clock. The Wednesday one is on a video conference, so we could all see and poke fun at who has shaved and who hasn't shaved, right? We're pretty disciplined on what we want to get accomplished each day. We keep track of our results on a daily basis. But one of the things that everyone needs to get is it's going to be a limp along before it becomes a trot, before it becomes a jog, before it becomes a full-out run.
That's right.
So you have to be prepared how this dance gets started, how resumption of quote-unquote normal starts to happen.
Right.
But if you don't have a plan, I guarantee you're going to screw it up.
That's right. That's right. So let's shift gears and let's get to the last foundational thing, the liquidity. And we put a handful of things in there. And look, these topics we can get very deep into these. But the first one's cash management, forecasting. Every client we have in normal times, first thing we do is to set up a cash management, forecasting model for them. And then we use that tool to help them become cash stable and then ultimately cash positive as their profitability increases. Important in normal times, probably 10 times more important in today's age, because your revenue's been impacted, your expenses probably haven't decreased other than maybe laying off people, but you got to know where and when and how long you have to survive with the cash available that you have today. Next one is expense reduction. How are we?
It's interesting. Out of the 100 and some odd calls you took a handful in the beginning. Yeah. I took a bunch, and now Chris has been taking most of them. There is virtually no one who could tell us, here's what I've got, and here's what I need by month for the next 3 months of hell to get through this, and is the number positive or negative at the end? And I've had people not want to talk to me when I challenge them to put that down on a piece of paper. Not for me, for them. Right. Don't even tell me the numbers. For you. And they don't want to talk to me anymore because they don't like what they're seeing.
Right, exactly. I think cash is very personal. Very personal. So it's a difficult subject to talk about.
Take my wife, don't take my money, right?
Right, exactly right. Next one would be operational expense reduction. We're going to take that cash management tool and how can we extend that out? How can we take what you have today and what you may have trickling in and what you're paying out, reduce the outflows, hopefully increase the inflows. That's difficult in this day and age, but how do we take maybe 4 weeks of survival and turn it into 6, 8, 10 weeks of survival, not counting on anything coming from the government and that type of thing. Now we will have a segment on what the government's offering. We're April 20th. If you follow the news, obviously PPP, the first iteration of that, has run out of funding. A lot of people were left out in the dark on that.
You know how many people got a PPP loan?
I don't.
1.6 million.
Yeah.
All right. You know what that broke down to? $200 and some odd $1,000 each.
Yeah.
How many small businesses in the United States?
30 million.
30 million.
Yeah.
28.5 million people either didn't apply, got shut out, got nothing. Insane to me.
Right.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah. So as we sit here today, there's talk about passing another $300 billion today That might take to the end of the week when it has to go through House and Senate and then finally get signed into law.
But it's just going to be the mad dash all over again.
Well, exactly. What we've been telling people, what we hope to accomplish through this webinar, is to not rely on those funds, because you don't know if you're going to get it or not. Many people have been fortunate. A lot of people have not been fortunate. And even with another $300 billion, if 1.6 was on the original 349, what's it going to be? Another million, maybe, out of 30 million small businesses. So we can't assume that you're going to get those funds, and you can't assume that you're going to get those funds. So we have to set up a good plan for you to survive independently of that. If it comes, fantastic. But if it doesn't, you still got to be able to weather the storm. And certainly how you plan is going to be different based on what that happens. But we will talk about that in a future webinar. And then finally, probably one of the most important ones, and we've alluded to this already, is how do you get your creditors to stand out? How do you get those landlords and those
insurance
banks,
companies,
your vendors?
Banks have actually been pretty accommodating.
Sure.
You got to approach all of them. Don't wait for them.
That's right.
And don't approach them with please, please, please.
Right.
They're all in the same bucket.
Yeah.
All in the same bucket. So if most vendors or creditors will work with you if you tell them what you need and you tell them how they're going to be made whole. If you just tell them I need forgiveness, I don't know, I would turn a deaf ear to you. Right?
Sure.
But if you tell them this is what I need for 30, 60, 90 days, and then this is how I'll make you whole over the remainder, we can help you get through that.
Yep. And then through the webinar series, we want to touch on industry specifics. We're going to start with restaurants because they're probably the biggest group of businesses.
Because it's my favorite hobby in the world, right. And you're doing the right thing. Go where Lou wants to go.
But we do want to talk through some other ones: automotive, manufacturers. We've got a lot of calls from hair salons and some other non-essentials. But we don't want to leave the manufacturers and contractors and distributors out either.
You go tell my wife a hair salon is a non-essential. Let me see you do that.
Right. So now we've kind of listed out the foundational things and what we're going to talk throughout the.
So we're going to talk about generic stuff like cash flow and KPIs and
which is good
how
for
to
everybody.
do pay for performance.
Right.
And then we're going to talk about industry specifics, options restaurants have if they've closed, if they've not closed, options beauty salons have, how distributors can look at things differently. So what we're going to do in each one of those webinars that's tailored specifically to an industry, we're going to go over some of the challenges that we believe they're having and how to deal with them in maybe some unique fashions that other people have not put on the table.
Yeah.
That about right?
That's right. That's
there
right.
You go.
Okay, so to kind of start winding this webinar down, I'm going to give you one of those foundational pieces that we talked about. I want you to think of one nugget, and I'll think of one nugget that we can throw out to them for today. So
you giving me homework?
Yeah, I'm giving you
you
homework right now.
On the spot.
So let me start. Leadership regimen. So one of the things that I listed down there is, as a business owner, your people are looking for you to be the leader. Now, this is going to be our next webinar. We're going to talk a lot about this, but one nugget for today. People are looking at you to be the leader. And even though these times are stressful, you got to be calm, you got to be cool, and you got to be decisive on what you do. So that's my one nugget. What's your one nugget?
About leadership?
Leadership.
My one nugget about leadership is if you have a vacation, cancel the damn thing.
Yeah.
Show your people that you're in this for the long haul and you are going to fight to the death for your business. I can give you 50 things on leadership.
Sure.
But I think
we're going to save that for the webinar.
There you go.
Let me give you one more. Take care of your health and well-being. Keep up with good routines. Shower, shave, get dressed, go out for walks. Do something to maintain some sense of normalcy in your life, even though you may be shut down. Next one, manpower planning or stay in place orders. Give me one nugget for that.
Since I'm such a fan of work from home, I think the thing I would suggest to anyone, if you've put your people on a work from home regimen, I think stay in touch with them every day.
Yep.
You can be crazy anal like I am and you want timesheets and you want all this stuff, but I'm going to tell you, if you just talk to people every day, you'll know if they're being productive or not.
Yep.
And during that conversation, they'll know how much you care by how you're asking.
Yep.
So you kill two birds with one stone.
Absolutely. I would create a 3-week look-ahead plan. And this, you kind of have to play the what-if game a little bit. And it has to fit with your liquidity needs. Because if your liquidity is going down because your revenue's down, then you have to adjust. But I would always want to make sure that 1, 2, 3 weeks out, I kind of have an idea of where people should be and who should be doing what and so on and so forth. If I just kind of go day by day by day and just, okay, today's different now, you're going to fail.
One of the things we had done wrong is we didn't have enough laptops.
Yeah.
So we had a bunch of folks that had laptops and remote capability. But when the world started to implode, we, like everybody else, tried to get laptops. And we could get them if you wanted to mortgage your grandkids, right? So we chose not to do that.
Yeah.
But now that things have calmed down slightly, we were able to buy a dozen brand new laptops for a very reasonable price. So this way we build an inventory of equipment so that our folks can be more productive from home and be on our network. So we got a little bit smarter ourselves.
Yeah.
But each owner has to take whatever steps are necessary to assure that whatever goes forward, they're protected.
Good, good. Recruitment, training, and retention.
Hire them all.
I said, while we're not trying to hurt people, the reality is there's probably some people you don't want to come back, and there's probably going to be some people that decide not to come back, no matter how much you want them
That's true.
to.
Now, well, we have been hell-bent on trying to upgrade a couple of departments and a couple of positions.
Yeah.
And with unemployment raging, what we found is that good people don't want to collect unemployment.
Yeah.
And we're pretty fortunate that we can afford to bring on people right now during a down time. But we are determined to upgrade a couple of areas, and the candidate pool is out there to get it done.
Absolutely.
So if you don't take advantage of it, shame on you.
So how about this for another nugget? Integrate recruiting, training, retention into your day-to-day routine. So while you're sitting at home or while your employees are working at home, why don't you give them 1, 2, 3 tasks a day that supports that, whether that's training for them to be better in their position, or that they're going out and spending some time looking for people, or you're making the conscious decision of who do I want to retain or who do I want to go through, and I'm going out and looking for that.
I think you take it a step further, right? If you're the owner and you're working from home, you can carve out an hour a day from home to help your recruiting effort, talk to people. I will tell you, the touch of an owner versus the touch of a quote-unquote recruiter is night and day. The recruiter might be the greatest employee you've ever had, but it's night and day.
Yeah, I agree. Incentive-based compensation.
What about it?
Give me a nugget.
Don't pay anybody. I gave you a nugget. So I think that if you hire the right people, if you bring the right people into your organization, if they understand the plan, the mission, the direction where you want to go, and they understand their opportunity being in an incentive-based environment, I think that you will create extraordinary a lot quicker. If you are afraid to broach the line of incentive-based compensation, it's usually because you've tried it or someone's tried it with you and has screwed it up. Okay, because to do this takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of testing to get it right. So when people rush, they make a mistake. How many times have I been told, we have an incentive-based compensation plan, our salespeople are on commission? I'm like, nope, not the way the dance works. Nope. But total believe, if you want to maximize profit and create something extraordinary, most of your key people, all of your key people, should be on an incentive-based compensation plan.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a close friend of mine who's in a distribution business, and they're able to up and run their essential business. And he brought people back, and he said one of the things that was frustrating him was they were just happy to have a job. They were just happy to be at work. They wanted to get their 40 hours. Sounds like normal to me, right? In a time that things aren't so normal. And we kind of we didn't get too deep into this conversation, but that was one of the things that got brought up is you can't just bring your people back as normal today. They have to be more productive, because you might in reality only have 4 hours worth of revenue being generated, and people are trying to work their normal 8-hour days. So you got to find ways to reward them for the work that they are doing, and figure out what you're going to do with the times that they're not very efficient with that, whether that's sending them home or doing whatever, but that's not really incentive-based compensation. So we would want to try to work to find a way to where people are treated fairly for the amount of work and production that they're actually putting forth on the table.
I just have this very simple philosophy. I will reward extraordinarily. I will not reward average extraordinarily.
Very good.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
That's great. Sales and marketing strategies.
Be aggressive. Talk to your people. Someone needs to be talking to your customers. Someone needs to be talking to your top accounts. They're going to come back to life too, but don't be afraid to ask them for cash up front.
So my nugget was this. Don't assume your competition is able to service your customers that they currently have.
Cool.
If you have the ability of having inventory on your shelves, you ought to be calling everybody. Whether you do business with them now, you did business with them, you don't do business with them anymore, you should be calling everybody. Start hunting. Pricing and costing.
You need to understand what everything costs you. And wherever you can start shaving, start shaving. I'm going to tell you there's a couple of pennies there all the time. I don't care if you're IBM or IB Joe. It doesn't matter to me. There are pennies to be picked up on every dollar.
Very good. Productivity reporting and metrics. Obviously to me, you got to develop action items. You got to put quotas on people. You got to have objective ways to measure them. You can't just say, "Hey, do these 5 things," and then leave them running.
But I think it's different. If it's a machine shop environment, you should be able to have a measurement on the utilization of each piece of equipment, and you should be matching it. That should be your standard. If it's not a machine shop environment and it's a people environment, you still should have some type of standard of what should be accomplished on a given hour. You're not paying less for that hour. You're paying a rate for that hour. You're entitled to what that hour can generate. So however you create that measurement, what are you waiting for?
Right, exactly. Supply chain management, dealing with your vendors.
You know what? They'll love to take a call from you. They're afraid you're not opening up anyway.
Yeah.
Let them know you're alive and breathing. And by the way, they're going to need to bankroll you.
How frequently would you talk with them?
About every day.
Good. I put in there that make sure that what you have on your shelves, you know what that is. So you're not just calling vendors and don't have a plan for how you're supposed to be ordering with them. You got to know what you have on your shelves in order to have a logical conversation with them about what you need and what they can do to service you.
And don't be afraid to make them take back the crap you don't want.
Good point. Getting back to normal and developing a ramp-up plan.
I think that should be something that you and your key people put together collectively. I think it needs to provide a safety mechanism for your people. I watched an Amazon commercial the other day on TV, how much they love their people and how much they're doing to keep them safe. Nobody had a mask on, nobody had gloves on, and one guy's wiping down a pole with a rag. I'm like, oh my God, you went totally batshit crazy getting this right, didn't you? So, am I allowed to say that? Too late now, right? Okay. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But I think that a return to work, a ramp up needs to consider safety, process, liquidity, people, timeline. Understand you're going to have to finance this ramp up. It's going to take a little bit of time. Nobody's running, everybody's walking.
Yep. I went a little bit easier with this one. I said, you don't want to wait to the point in time that you can unlock your doors and open back up for business for your customers to know that, for your suppliers to know that, or for you to find out that you got people that don't want to come back and work for you. You got to start planning this out several weeks in advance. And in reality, you probably got to start planning now, even if stay in place is extended.
Yeah, so if your stay in place is up May 1st and then it gets pushed back to May 15th, well, you're 2 weeks ahead of everybody else.
Right, exactly.
Where you belong.
Cash management, cash forecasting.
You don't do it, shame on you. You don't. There's no way you have enough liquidity.
Yeah. So my input on cash management, and we're going to do a webinar on this sooner rather than later. It's one of the most important areas we have to cover. I think, you got to put your forecast for a minimum up to the end of June. We're saying 3 months of hell, right? So we got to at least project up to that one, if not further in.
And be conservative.
And be conservative. But you got to look for opportunities to extend your sustainability. Operational expense reduction. Nugget.
Nugget. You can't take a critical enough magnifying glass to every line item of your P&L to see where you can shave the pennies, the nickels, the pennies, the nickels. I'm not a fan of trying to shave home runs. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a cool thing to do. But I think there's a reason pennies and nickels add up to dollars. Yeah. So I think if you can go line by line by line on your P&L and take out a penny or 2 pennies or 3 pennies, you should be doing this every day of your life anyway.
Right. Exactly. I said 2 things. Don't assume federal money is coming to save you, so you got to plan accordingly. And this is really a good opportunity to right-size your business and reassess your staffing levels as well. Again, there's no rule book. You're free to do whatever it is that you need to do to shave off those unproductive people that you may not want to come back. The EIDL PPP offerings, we talked a little bit about that. Just know and understand that there's a couple options for you out there. Don't hesitate if you're going to apply, get your applications in, particularly now that we're going to be on second round of PPP. There's going to be millions of businesses.
Stay away from the big banks.
Yeah.
Stay away from the big banks. They try to put your application in what they call buckets or tranches. Their common phrase now is you're hung up in the queue. And Q stands for quietly, I want to kill you. All right. So you're hung up in the queue. Don't do that. The smaller banks don't do that. They actually put your app through onesie Tuesday. That's where you need to be looking. I also read that looks like they may refund EIDL to the tune of $60 billion. Yeah. So you're going to have potentially two options to go after again. But as you've said before, if you were in trouble, this doesn't fix I'm in trouble.
That's right.
But it gives you a chance to have a reset.
And finally, how do you get your creditors to stand down? You mentioned a couple of these already.
I think you need to be direct, but you need to have a plan. You got to have a plan for each creditor, and they need to know they're going to be made whole. If you're just expecting them to take a haircut, come on. All right, you need to be different than everybody else that's begging to them for forgiveness.
I think one of the things that kind of gets lost in that discussion is the fact that you, as the debtor in this instance, you do have some leverage. It's better for you to work it out with whoever you owe money to than it is for you to just go away. I mean, if you go out of business and run out, that's not good for anybody, especially yourself. So you do have some leverage in this, and you need to be smart about how you use that leverage. But you do have leverage, and you shouldn't be afraid to go to them and get what you want.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I'm going to tell you that so many people are going to want to pay nothing. Mm-hmm. If your monthly payment for X is $5,000, and you can give them $250 the first month, $500 the second month, $750 the third month, and then add it back to the remaining 12 months or your note or whatever, your creditor will feel better. If you don't, then you have a problem.
Very cool. So those are the recommendations we're going to leave you with today. Hopefully you got 1, 2, 3 nuggets out of that. Again, in the webinar series, we're going to go into much more detail on those topics and those things that we expounded on today. But in summary, remember, you're painting a picture for your puzzle. Your picture has to include protecting your people, the integrity of your operations, and your liquidity. Then you got to build your corners and edges with your foundational pieces, the things that we talked about here today. And the inner pieces are the detailed things that we're gonna discuss through this webinar series. And all of that combined should kind of wrap out your COVID-19 puzzle plan to get you through this 3 months of hell. So I hope you enjoyed this webinar, had fun doing it.
I did. Hey, let me add this, right? Yeah. So if you take anything out of this, number one, we're in 3 months of hell. Yeah. Number two, you need to have the strength and discipline to get through this. Cash, people, process, accountability. We're going to guide you through how to do this on future webinars, and we're going to talk to you specifically about your industry and options that you have. Folks, this is $19.95. We did this on purpose. If we told you what we charge for our hourly consulting, your heads would spin. $19.95 to try to help you out. On top of that, you can call us anytime. We're here for you, okay? So I hope this webinar series provides great value for people. We enjoyed doing it. We enjoy a lot more watching you be successful.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.